Welcome. My name's Andrea Rodich-Vitek, and I'm going to be doing a quick presentation about PTKLF and how we can use AI to support our teachers with the new standards. So there's my name. My role is I'm an elementary principal and also a state preschool program director. I have a really unique site where we serve the state preschool students for our school district. We also have special ed preschool and inclusion happening. And then we also have TK, so that's why I'm considered an elementary principal. But my life for the past 4 years has been living and breathing, everything that has to do with early childhood learning and 3 to 5 year olds. So the things that we're going to go over today is I'm going to give a brief overview of PTKLF. I know they were released back in July or the end of June, but I also see like this that the state is kind of putting it out there just this week. So it's definitely a hot topic right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about approaches to learning, which is one of the major domains. And math, there was a big change from the previous foundations. Some quick practical strategies for TK-6 educators. And then I wanted to get into how you can use AI with your unit planning. So PTKLF, if you can go ahead and put in the chat, on a scale of 1 to 5, how familiar are you with the new learning foundations? And don't be shy or embarrassed, because we're all, starting our journey at a different place. Okay, we've got a mix so far. Awesome. So really quickly, I'm going to go over the organization of the new learning foundations. And for those of you that are, in the one range, it's preschool, transitional kindergarten learning foundations. Before they were just the preschool learning foundations. So now we're adding TK with that expansion of TK. And then looking at how the new learning foundations promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. That's a big thing that I'm really passionate about in the program that I serve. And then some guiding principles of PTKLF. So the domains and subdomains, if you're familiar with preschool learning foundations, this might look very similar, or the DRDPs. The thing that is different, well, there's a couple things. They added the approaches to learning, which I know has been part of the DRDPs, but it was not reflected in the learning foundations. So that is now part of the PTKLF. They also broke up that language and literacy development into the foundational language development and the English language development for our multilingual learners. And then I just want to highlight, moving forward in the slide deck, like I mentioned before, approaches to learning and also mathematics. So this is, if you haven't had a chance to download the PDF, which are available for you online, this is how they look. You'll see that it has the strand, which is, for this one, we're looking at operations and algebraic thinking. And then the substrand underneath, which would be number operations. It tells you that foundational title. And then the part that's different from the previous version is now we have the way that they're breaking it down. It's encompassing that TK, where we have TK students that are up to 5.5 years old. So it's it also has that overlap. So it's 3 to 4.5 years, and then from 4 to 5.5 years, because we know that children develop at slightly different rates. And so this is, reflecting that. And I really love the examples that are provided. I think for those of us that have to collect our observations for DRDPs, this is a really good piece to, spend on with your PLC to help you kind of spur those conversations on what are we going to look for this foundation. So that's a quick snapshot of that. The thing that I love about, I love lots of things about it, but I love that the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is at the core of the PTKLF. It's something that, I know it's been happening in silos, and now it's becoming something that the CDE is recognizing that we need to do. There are 3 things that they touch upon in those sections, and they talk about cultural and linguistic diversity, multilingual learners, and children with disabilities. Just for the sake of time, I'm only going to talk about multilingual learners. I know that's a big part if you're familiar with state preschool program. We have to do the cap stack every month, and we're identifying those students that are multilingual learners. And we're answering more questions for those of you that are, in the elementary world. And I'm familiar with that because I spent many years in elementary and middle school, that we do that home language survey when children enroll. This is much more expansive, what we are asking, especially at the preschool level. And we have those kids that do TK and preschool. So the PTKLF is elevating the children's language in ways that represent the diversity of young children in California. At my school site alone, we have about 10 languages represented. And that is not unusual for, working in California. And then what I've noticed when going through them is that it is providing, in that example piece I was showing before, it's representing 13 different home languages. And it's just, I think it's really key, and you don't have to know a different language, but I think it's really important as early educators that we understand some of the qualities that different languages, that our students are bringing to the table. So I just used my snipping tool, and I took a few snapshots of just to show you some of the things that you might see. So for this, the first one is balancing emotion. That's under physical development. It's referencing hide and seek in Bengali. So that's one of the languages that is represented. It's for cardinality, which is in the math foundations. It's referencing a book, Senorita Mariposa, and it's also referencing a deaf child using sign language. And self-identity, it's referencing Cantonese. And, I like it when my older sister reads to me in Cantonese. And then for Foundation 1.2, this would be under the language and literacy. It's giving a child a chance to respond in different languages. So this child says in Spanish, and I'll say it in English, I like to play baseball, but my favorite sport is soccer. And that's during their mealtime. So it's just, I think really digging into those examples is going to be really great for our educational leaders and teachers to really understand, since it is going to be new for us. And then moving on, these are the 9 guiding principles of PTKLF. And if you work at a high quality early learning, these are things that you already are doing, and that we have supportive relationships, we're valuing diversity, we're valuing the child's home language. Family engagement is very important, that we're integrating we're not just teaching math and science, but we're having those things woven together, that we are looking at the child's strengths and their needs. UDL, we are letting our kids show different ways of knowing. My thing in my shirt, I know it's hard to read, but it says play is learning. So learning through play. And then that in those intentional teaching pieces are key. And PTKLF, there's so many letters. That's my only issue with that. So moving on, I wanted to talk about approaches to learning. This is something, since I do have so many students with exceptional needs at my campus, we call them learning to learn skills. And I love that the PTKLF are now including those because it was something kind of like our teachers would do them for the DRDPs, but it wasn't reflected in the standards. So I'm going to go over quickly organization on that and how educators can support this, and then quickly talk about how that diversity, equity, inclusion is included in approaches to learning. And so there's 3 strands of approaches to learning. There's motivation to learn, executive functioning, and goal-directed learning. And there is a lot of research around how executive functioning is actually key for students being able to read. So that inhibitory control and the different things that are with executive functioning, that's going to be that foundation for them being able to read. So these are skills that students are going to exhibit in a high quality early learning program. And that's what it says a lot in the PTKLF is high quality early learning program. And that's something that we all strive for in our schools and our classrooms. So just that's been a shift in our school, is really providing opportunities for play, because that's how our children learn at this level. It's first in the hand, then in the brain. And so looking at how we could do imaginary play, the games, playing Simon Says and red light, green light, it's so important for our kids to be able to do those things. Setting up the environment so that there is hands-on exploration, looking at your centers and keeping it novel for our kids, being able to switch them in and out. I saw we had a TK teacher here, and when TK was first brought to my school site, the TK teachers they were TK teachers at other schools. And in a lot of places, it's not just nothing, no shame on teachers that did this. TK was kind of like kindergarten light. And so that whole idea of free play and centers was kind of a change to what they were used to in their previous assignment. And when I said that I wanted 1 hour of play every day, that free play time, a lot of the teachers were very resistant to that, because to them, that was a long time for their children to attend. But now it's like such, we could not live without that time, because that kind of helps them through those other times during the day. And then having consistent routines. This helps all of our learners. It helps our English or multilingual learners. It helps our students with disabilities, and just kids in general. They need to have that routine when they're with you. And then also just collaborating with families, see what the kids like, what are their preferred items? If they have issues with transitions, what do they like? So we can use that and we can work on those learning to learn skills. And when you have, if you have parent meetings, getting information from the families on maybe games that they play at home that you're not familiar with, and having that cross-pollination of ideas so that it is that true partnership. So math is another piece that they really, I really like how they wrote the math standards, because it looks so much like Common Core state standards. So if you've taught any grade levels like kindergarten and beyond, when we did the adoption of Common Core state standards, there are mathematical practices, and then there's substrands, and there are more in different grade levels. But what you'll see is that in the mathematical practices, this is a separate set of standards, and these 8 mathematical practices are the same ones used kindergarten through 8th grade. When I was creating this presentation, I was trying to cheat and find like a graphic, because there are some really cool graphics out there for the 8 practices with visuals on there, but it's not preschool and TK friendly. And so one of my projects I'm going to do after this is I want to create a poster that is not just the one from CDE, because I think it's important that we know what these 8 mathematical practices look like easily for our teachers to be able to do. So these are like the behaviors that our kids do that's going to help them to develop those skills in math. And then they are, like I said, they're identical to Common Core state standards. And the strands, if you've taught kindergarten before, counting and cardinality, that is a strand in kindergarten. That's in the PTKLF. Operations and algebraic thinking, that's also in Common Core state standards. Measurement and data, another one. Geometry and spatial thinking. They don't have spatial thinking in Common Core state standards, but they do have geometry. And here's an example of one of the foundations. It's in cardinality. And I listened to someone talking about this, and it was talking about the very subtle difference between what this looks like with our 3 to 4.5 year olds and then the 4 to 5.5 year olds. And it reminded me of my son, who's now 14, but when he was 3, my husband had the refrigerator open, and we really like mustard in our family. We have different types of mustards, and I know that he went 1 mustard, 2 mustard, 3 mustards. And my husband got so excited because he said we had 3 mustards, but then we said, how many mustards? And he didn't just say 3. He went back and went 1 mustard, 2 mustard, 3 mustards. So he had to count it again. But now, or sorry, not now, because he's 14. So he's doing linear equations at this point. But from 4 to 5.5 year olds, now they can just they might count it, and they'll say how many mustards or however many, whatever you're talking about, they'll just give you the number. They don't have to go back and count it. And so that subtle difference is showing like how the kids progress with that foundation. And then some helpful tips for our people that are joining us. You want to keep this simple. If as a leader with and doing the slow rollout of PTKLF, because they are very familiar with the DRDPs and the current learning foundations, spending time just going over like the guiding principles, not overwhelming them with all, because it's voluminous how much there is with the PTKLF. Going over UDL, I think that's going to be a big, that's a really big way for the kids to be able to show different ways that they know things. I would include, looking at your assessments, again, referencing our TK person in here. And I think we have a preschool special ed, and the DRDP is part of your world. TK, it kind of depends at this point what your district's doing with that. But collecting observations versus making the kids do like paper pencil is so much more meaningful. And then we use a screener at my campus called PELI, and it's the preschool early literacy indicators. And that's something that's standardized. And we really, and this one, it is done through a story, but it is a little bit, some of my teachers are like, it's not like what we're supposed to be doing with observations, but it's very quick, and we give it 3 times a year. I think that's really shown that play is so important with our kids learning. Focusing on that play and what play should look like, that free play versus like that structured play, making sure you have invitations during centers. And I'm going to show you that in a minute with the AI and the unit planner. And for my leaders or any of our people that are in a supervisory role, if you're a program director or principal, having professional learning communities is super important. And what I've done is I have gen ed and sped together in PLCs, and that's so important for our our teachers to collaborate on like the standards, but also there's a lot of information that we do back and forth about behaviors. The name of the assessment we use at our school is the PELI, P-E-L-I. If you're familiar with Acadians, it's the same company, and it's the preschool early literacy indicators. I'm sure there's other ones out there. Yeah, 3 times a year. But it does alphabet knowledge, vocabulary. There's a oral comprehension piece of phonemic awareness, and I'm probably missing something. And then just your importance of support staff. I'm very blessed to have, we have psychologists on our campus, SLPs. We have occupational therapists that come in from time to time, physical therapists, and they just, the lens that they provide, and they are so, they're passionate about what they do because they really specialized in that one component. Having their input, I think, is going to be really key in these new standards. So with the AI and unit planning, I wanted to quickly show you, because I know that you probably do not use Learning Genie, and I wanted to show you the power of AI, and it's just incredible how this is all working. But I have to switch screens, so that's why I had to do that. So let me go here. All right, so Learning Genie we've been using Learning Genie for years at my site, but we have been using it in the beginning for our DRDPs. This is how we collect our data and we do our rating. And Learning Genie is one of the few vendors that you can upload it to the DRDP website that the state requires for compliance. And my teachers, they would never, if I said I was going to take Learning Genie away, I'd be in big trouble. So for our DRDPs, this is something that we've used for probably over 5 years. And then last year we started doing attendance because in state preschool or when you're dealing with licensing, we have to have kids be signed in and signed out. And again, that has been so amazing for our school. Then last year I was introduced to the unit planner, which is I want to say starting in January, I started looking at this, and I wanted to show you a few things on here. So I'm going into the unit planner, and I'm not going to do a new unit. I have one ready to show you, but I wanted to just show you the how you prompt the AI to do a unit planner. So what I have created for you is a unit on food. Maybe because Thanksgiving's coming and I'm really excited about my sister and my husband's cooking. So I did, and I know that's a popular unit in TK. At my school, we have a unit on food around this time of year. The unit description, I fed it some questions, like essential questions that I wanted it to answer in that unit. For this, there's a drop down. And so I picked TK, I did a 3-week unit. And then this is the part that's like, oh, so amazing. I picked the new standards. And then you can even, and I did this too, I picked specific standards in here that I wanted to be included in the unit. And you can create a localized curriculum. So, where I live or where I'm at in Riverside County, I know that's very different from Northern California. So you can customize it to that area. So going back over here sorry. So here's my unit that I made on food, and yeah, it's 3 weeks. And there's 24 activities, and I can show you just how, like, it gives you what I'm going to do for week 1. So our theme is going to be for that first week, where does our food come from? It has large group and small group things to do. And then I also prompted it to create centers that were that were thematic to food. So, because I always talk to my teachers about keeping the centers fresh. And yeah, so it did all of that. The other part, which I think is such a great alignment with the PTKLF, is it has diversity, equity, and inclusion best practices. Sorry, I'm not having an issue adding the S to the end. And so it talks to you about how to do these different things in your lesson for teachers and for administrators. And the other part is, and there's so much, I'm not gonna be able to show you everything, but if I wanted to add this unit to my weekly plan, and I'll just have it, I know we don't have school on the 11th, but just sake of time, I'm gonna put it on there. And Daniel has set me up with a training class, but I can adapt the lessons to my class. So if you look, I have these students, like one, it has that their race is Chinese and their home language is English and Mandarin. And so this child also is, a dual language learner. They have an IEP. They are hard of hearing. And so you can adapt this to the students that you have in your classroom. And if you're using this for your DRDPs, you can collect, and I'm having an issue, but that's okay. You can collect observations, and it's like a seamless integration between, your unit, your lesson plan for that week, and then having to collect all that data for DRDPs. Because I do recognize that collecting all of that, I'll go back to that, but collecting all of that, those observations, it is, I know it's a bear. And I have seen my teachers, they struggle if they don't have it as part of what they're teaching. If they're having to make these other like paper pencil things versus embedding it into the curriculum that they're doing, it is such a struggle. So the power AI, it's just like, I wish, because it's been a while since I've been in the classroom. I'm not going to lie. I was an instructional coach for 9 years before I became a principal. So I've been out of the classroom for 12, 13 years. I try to go in the classroom as much as possible to model and do lots of things. But if this was around, I think like that art of teaching, we spend so much time on paperwork, and this is really going to take away from that time that we have. So yeah, that's kind of an overview of PTKLF, and then showing you how AI can, really enhance what we're doing in the classroom, so that because our kids have lots of needs and we have to put a lot of energy in that. So this is just such a beautiful thing that is available to us now.